In the early 1920s, the United States was filled with false wealth, corruption, and organized crime. Prohibition sprung up hidden forms of crime that involved honest, wealthy businessmen becoming concealed conspirators of crime overnight. Wealthy business owners saw Prohibition as an opportunity to gain influence and power over the common people by distributing the illegal alcohol and other criminal activities. These men used poor immigrants who were uneducated to do their dirty work as hitmen, assassins, and bodyguards. Using their influence over these men, different forms of mafia groups sprung up, such as Italian, Jewish, and Irish mafia organizations. Occurrences of the first form of mafia groups in the United States came about in 1903 in New York City from an organization known as the Black Hand. The Black Hand was made up of poor Italian immigrants who came to the U.S. to escape from the spread of fascism that was led through the Bolshevik Party. After being fed up with the poor living conditions and ill treatment, radical Italians banded together and formed the Black Hand in order to instill a grip of fear in America. The rise and fall of the Black Hand group from 1903 to 1950 inspired many other groups, such as the notorious Al Capone, corrupted government official Lucky Johnson, and the other corrupted individuals.
Gangs who had limited their activities to gambling and robbery before 1920 transformed into organized groups of bootleggers.
Bootlegging is the illegal selling of alcohol or other spirits during the era of Prohibition. Bootlegging gets its name from the act of hiding alcohol or other spirits inside rather large boots. The smuggler would walk around town with the concealed alcohol and sell it to patrons. A primary goal of 1920s Prohibition was the reduction of drinking by workers. In this case, enforcement of 1920s Prohibition was a formidable task. Bootleggers and rum runners, smugglers crossing a state border, were plentiful. Criminal elements organized because of large profits in bootlegging. Much of the population had contempt for law enforcement during 1920s Prohibition. However, many bootleggers and rum runners still roamed the streets selling alcohol. Chicago's Al Capone and his organization were considered glamorous figures. Supposedly, half the city's police were on their payroll. And during 1920s Prohibition, moonshine, which is also known as hooch and white lightning, was illegally produced, especially in the southern states and Appalachia. Moonshine, which is home-produced alcohol or whiskey, is used for distillation. Producers and smugglers usually worked by moonshine to avoid detection. Under 1920s Prohibition, those with ties to organized crime commonly operated speakeasies. A speakeasy was a liquor establishment where alcoholic beverages were sold and consumed during Prohibition. To order alcohol without drawing much attention or raising suspicion, bartenders asked customers to remain quiet and speak easy. Speakeasies were numerous, and some had food, floor shows, and live bands playing 1920s jazz. Federal prohibition agents, however, often raided these establishments, arresting both owners and patrons. However, it was common for police to be bribed by speakeasy operators in order to operate or to be given advance notice about raids during 1920s Prohibition.
Bootlegging gangsters became millionaires. Among them was Al Capone, whose brief career as a Chicago mob boss made him into a legendary character. His income was estimated at over $100 million per year. Al Capone led a gang in the 20s in Chicago, so he could take advantage of a new opportunity to make money smuggling illegal alcoholic beverages into the city during Prohibition. He also engaged in various other criminal activities, including bribery of government figures and prostitution. Despite his illegitimate occupation, Capone became a highly visible public figure. He made various charitable endeavors using the money he made from his activities, and was viewed by many as to be a modern-day Robin Hood. However, Capone gained infamy when the public discovered his involvement in the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which resulted in the death of 7 of Capone's rival gang members. Capone's reign ended when he was found guilty of tax evasion and sent to federal prison. Al Capone and many people like him reigned the streets of major cities all over the United States in the 1920s. Near the end of the 1920s, gangs had become so organized that they held national convention in Cleveland, Ohio on December 5, 1928. 23 bosses gathered from New York, Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis, Tampa, and Philadelphia. Although mutually suspicious of one another, they discussed common interests, problems, and explored the idea of establishing a nationwide crime syndicate. A syndicate is an association of individuals or groups who agree to carry out certain activities. The illegal distribution of alcohol in the 1920s made a strongly organized network of mob bosses through the United States.
One of the most primary examples of bribe and corruption was the notorious crime boss, Nokie Johnson. Nokie Johnson looked at Prohibition to spread his influence and maintain his power over the people of Atlantic City, New Jersey. He was a top figure in Southern Jersey politics, serving several terms as the local sheriff and as Atlantic Country treasurer. Under Nokie Johnson, Atlantic City was one of the leading important centers for illegal booze. Johnson, along with gin merchants along the East Coast, formed a group called the Seven Group in 1927.
The Irish mob began somewhere in the 18th century, making it much older than any of the other mobs in existence during Prohibition. It had its roots in a large amount of Irish immigrants who had to turn to crime to make any decent amount of money, with the criminals eventually organizing themselves into a fully fledged mob. The main cities where the mob worked were Philadelphia, New York, and Boston, but eventually spread their influence to Chicago, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. In Chicago, the city that became a symbol because of the gangsters during Prohibition, many Irish groups got involved in being rivals with the Italian gangsters, such as Al Capone and his gang, the Chicago Outfit. The commerce rivalry often resulted in bloody confrontations. In 1920, the Irish alliance fell apart and the Italian gangsters gained supremacy in the New York underworld. The destruction of the alliance started from within because besides the conflicts they had with the Italians, the Irish also had to deal with their internal problems. The gangs fought with each other, and this weakened them considerably and started their decline to speed up.
The illegal distribution of alcohol in the 1920s made a strongly organized network of mob bosses throughout the United States, that when the 18th Amendment was appealed in 1933, the network of mob bosses remained, but focusing on other various crimes such as gambling, loan sharking, prostitution, and drug distribution.